Happy hump day. I freaking suck, just like the Rockies. But we got a full slate, so let's talk some baseball. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back into another episode for Just a Bet Outside. I'm your host, Steven, and we're here to talk some more baseball. And unfortunately, that means the bets recap. I don't know what to tell you guys. I love the reads. I thought we are heading for a good day again, but somehow we went 1-4. Two of the losses were half units, luckily. Lost a couple units. I don't know what to tell you. The Rockies, I thought, would just easily go over 2.5 runs. They get two in the second, hitting them all around. They get 0 runs and again until the 8th inning. I mean, that was just insane. 11.5 total. That game ended with like 6 or 7 runs. Stephen Kwan goes hitless against Chris Flexen in the White Sox bullpen. Brendan Rodgers gets a single in his first at bat and can't get one more base the rest of the way, even with a 5th at bat in the 10th inning. The only winner we had was the big game breakdown. We are officially undefeated in big game breakdown bets at 1-0. Over 4.5 in the first 5 innings in the Reds Yankees. That game went just how I thought it would. The Reds scoring 5 and the Yankees scoring 0. No, seriously, I have no idea. That was lucky too. Ellie De La Cruz came through for us. But anyways, we got to turn around. Baseball is incredibly tough. It's been tough on so many handicappers that I talk to. We're all frustrated by how inconsistent and how unpredictable it is, but that's why I love the sport as well. You see cappers on Twitter and everywhere else that are swearing off baseball and betting on it. It's that tough, but that doesn't mean it's an excuse. I'm going to keep grinding. I need to get you guys some winners, but hopefully you guys are getting a lot of help with all the info as well. So now it's time to announce the winner of the Dinger Tuesday contest, and that is at Gray Gordon 7968. He hits Spencer Horowitz at plus 800. What a hit. And if this name looks familiar, that's because at Gray Gordon was the runner-up in the Wednesday showdown last week after hitting Colton Cowser at plus 750. Came in second place, but this week he gets over the hump. That is very impressive. I would check to see what his comment is next week, because hitting a plus 750 and a plus 800 in 2 weeks back-to-back is pretty impressive. So anyways, that's what we got for the recap and the winner of the Dinger Tuesday. But it's time. We got a full 15-game slate. I'm ready to talk some more baseball. And you know we always have a lot to talk about, but it starts with the fun fact. So here we go. I'm sorry, Philly fans, for this one, but the A's are the most successful Philadelphia sports team. They have 5 World Series titles, and they haven't even played in Philly in 70 years. It was more of a joke, honestly. I just found it. I thought that was interesting. The Philadelphia A's, by the way. But in this video, and by the way, I'm a Mariners fan, so we just suck all the time. So I feel your pain. But in this video, we're going to go over the good and bad hitter matchups, the good pitcher strikeout matchups, the entire 15-game pitcher report, and then, of course, we're going to have that one big game breakdown and then give you the best bets, hitter parlay ideas, and wrap it up with the bets recap. So hit that like button, leave a comment below, and hit that subscribe button if you're new to the channel. We're getting ever so close to 26,000 subscribers. I love seeing all the comments every day. It just makes my day, all the positivity. And you guys talking about best bets and things like that. And by the way, Discord is free. Come join. We have a lot of baseball in there. We're already starting to talk some NFL and things like that. So the link is below. Everything's completely free. So let's get into it. And it starts with the hitter matchups. All right, we got 16 good hitter matchups today for July 3rd. You're going to surprisingly see a decent amount of Cubs players in there with Nico Horner, Ian Happ. How about Cody Bellinger, bottom left, guys? He's 5 for 13 off Wheeler, and all 5 hits have been freaking taters. All bombs. Chicks dig the long ball. It has been unbelievable. Brian Reynolds up there, 13 for 36. David Peralta. How about 18 for 42 against John Gray? Who saw that one coming? And then Yelich over there, 5 for 12. Solano, 5 for 10, so on and so on. So, and by the way, there's a Seattle Mariner on the bottom right. I almost forgot how to write SEA because I never do on these pages. But anyways, those are the best hitter matchups for July 3rd. Now let's take a look at some cold hitter matchups, the worst ones of the day. And there's only 6 of them. Dansby, Swanson. Now let's go to the other side on a Cub versus Wheeler. 6 for 37 with 13 strikeouts versus Wheeler. I mean, as the coach is writing the lineup card for Wednesday, I would probably, if I were him, just kind of say, you know, today's a good day to have a day off. That's for sure against Wheeler. But Andrew McCutchen, 2 for 22, 3 Ks. The Candyman, Arozarena, Med Rosario, 1 for 13, and then Jorge Soler, who had an unbelievable hitter matchup yesterday, is 1 for 11 versus Chris Sale. Again, this doesn't mean these guys cannot get a hit off them. It's just something to give you some more info in case you're thinking about betting them. So those are the good and bad hitter matchups. And now let's talk some arms. All right, we only got one good pitcher strikeout matchup today, and it's Mr. Zach Wheeler against those Cubs in Chicago. Cubs fourth highest K percentage versus righties at almost 26%. Wheeler 112 Ks and 105.2 innings this season. But here's something to keep in mind: the K rate dips on the road, 23.2% on the road, still above average compared to 28.9% at home. Pretty big difference there. But again, the Cubs do strike out a lot. He has been inconsistent on the road also. Last five on the road: 4, 4, 9, 2, and 6. There are the opponents, obviously, they're not all easy teams to strike out, but they weren't extremely tough matchups either. So he is averaging just under 6 Ks per game in his last 8 starts. Now, I'm just going to go over two other guys here, a high K pitcher and Chris Sale, and why he's not on here because he's going up against the Giants. Sale has a ton of Ks, we know that, but the Giants have the 10th lowest K rate versus lefties in June at less than 20%, which is really, really impressive. And then I just wanted to point this out because you might wonder why I didn't include a starting pitcher versus the Mariners. Again, insert name. Well, that insert name, it used to be Corbin Burns. They changed the pitcher. It is now going to be Dean Kramer at Seattle. The reason I didn't include it because Dean Kramer is making his first start off the IL. I expect a possible pitch count here, so I didn't want to give you guys a bunch of info. I just want to make sure you guys knew that. Maybe he's not, but I can't imagine he's not on his first start. But he does have 49 Ks and 50 innings this season. So those are the good pitcher strikeout matchups, and now it's time for the pitcher report. All right, these are the first 8 matchups for July 3rd, and just to go over a couple names that you may not know much about. Gavin Williams there for the Guardians. NA across the board. That's for a reason. He was a rookie last season. He's making his first start of this year. He had an elbow injury, more than likely on a pitch count, but he did have a 3.29 ERA in 82 innings last season, with 81 Ks and 36 walks. That's right. It was not pretty, but he still had a pretty decent rookie season. And then Christian Scott there for the Mets. You guys know he's a rookie also. He pitched earlier this year, got taken down, and now he's got the call back up. And in the minors this year, 2.76 ERA, 55 Ks, and 42.1 innings. He's been pretty good. And he's been pretty decent, as you saw on his first call up also. 3.9 ERA, low expected ERA, so on and so on. So those are just a few of the guys. And then Andrew Abbott, Carlos Rodon, a battle of two lefties in New York. Pretty good matchup there. And then Ronel Blanco trying to bounce back from a rough start last time, but he's had one heck of a season as well. And then we all know Chris Sale has been awesome. Jordan Hicks had a pretty good season. To me, he's been a little inconsistent and tough to trust, but if you look at the numbers, they haven't been too bad at all. But anyways, that's what we got. Eric Fetty there for the White Sox going up against Gavin Williams, by the way. Has had a great year so far, but he has been much better at home also. Just something to keep in mind or at least look into. So that's what we got for the first 8 matchups. And now let's check out page 2. All right, the big heavyweight showdown right there. Zach Wheeler versus Shota Imanaga in Chicago. More on that later. But just to talk about some guys you may not know, Davis Daniel there for the Angels. If you remember, we backed the Tigers. I will never say that out loud again. Against Davis Daniel. And he absolutely shoved. He just dominated them almost through a complete game. He's a guy who struggled in the minors with like a 5.5 ERA and then came out and just dominated them for 8 innings, as you can see there. So now he faces the A's. What a great way to start, Tigers and A's. But anyways, that's them. The Montero Festa matchup, I'm staying completely away from that game. Obviously, those guys have thrown 8.2 and 9 innings. But just to kind of give you some info in case you do want to bet it, Montero has only one actual start this season. He gave up 4 earned runs in that start at 4.1 innings to Pittsburgh Pirates. And then Festa, his second start. He's a top prospect, I believe. He was the minor league leader in strikeouts this season, or at least in top 3 somewhere, with 87 strikeouts in 59.2 innings. So then he comes to the majors, and what does he do? Well, it's not as easy. He pitched against the Arizona Diamondbacks, gave up 5 earned runs, and only struck out 2. So the Tigers, a much better matchup. Maybe this is his coming out party this game. But anyways, just want to point that out. And then Colin Rea, if you look at all the advanced metrics, been one of the luckiest pitchers in all of baseball, going up against Dakota Hudson. I no longer know what to even think about the Rockies. I'm angry at them. That game yesterday should have had like 48 runs, and it ended with 6 or 7. It's just baseball. But Gavin Stone having a quite sneaky good year, in my opinion. And then no pitcher for the Diamondbacks right now. And then Logan Gilbert, who has been absolutely unbelievable at home. But also a little more unbelievable against against weaker competition. But anyways, he's been great going up against Dean Kramer, like we already talked about. Hopefully Seattle can get a win after losing game 1, because watching their offense is literally like watching paint dry as they score 0 runs yet again. So anyways, that is the pitcher report for July 3rd. And now it's time for the big game breakdown. All right, before we get to this big game breakdown, I just wanted to let you guys know we are partners with OUTLIER. They were the ones that gave out 6 months free in a Dinger Tuesday contest. We're going to give out more, but the link is below if you want to go sign up and check out the free trial and just use the app. But seriously, it is a one-stop shop for all your betting research help. It has been awesome to see. It's a great way to start if you don't have a ton of time. You can kind of see, okay, where are the hit rates at? What are players doing home, away, righties, lefties, and then you can kind of dig in from there. But it's just been a great app to use. So go check that out with OUTLIER. I know a lot of you guys already use it, but the big game breakdown time. Here we go. It is the Phillies at the Chicago Cubbies. We are going to Wrigley Field for the big game. Phillies money line minus 126. Cubs money line plus 110 with a total of 8 runs in this game. Let's talk the spot real quick. There's not much to talk about. So the Phillies took game 1 of the series 6-4. This is the second game of a 6-game road trip for the Phillies, and this is the second game of a 6-game homestand for the Chicago Cubbies, so no real advantage there. If we just talk starting pitcher matchup, Zach Wheeler versus Shota Imanaga. This is a good one, but Zach Wheeler, he's been solid this season like he is every year. But let's just dive in here. 4.35 ERA on the road compared to a 1.76 ERA at home. He has been more of an average pitcher on the road. And what's crazy is slugging. I mean, he has given up a 421 slugging on the road and a 248 slugging at home. Big difference there. K rate much lower on the road. We already talked about in the pitcher strikeout matchups. Walk rate higher on the road, 8.5 to 6.6. Just in general, I mean, if you put those together, the strikeout walk percentage is 22.3% at home, and it's only 14.6% on the road. It is just not pretty. And then you look at XFIP, kind of telling statistics. 3.99 XFIP on the road, 3.16 at home, which kind of tells you, maybe he's been getting a little unlucky, but really he hasn't. When you look at other stuff as well, like BABIP, batting average on balls and plays, it's about the same. So it's not like they're just finding a lot of holes. He's just getting unlucky. He just hasn't been great for him on the road, that's for sure. But some other stats, he also struggles a lot the third time through the lineup. 1.89 ERA the first time through, 2.04 the second time, and then almost a 5 ERA at 4.94 the third time through. He also struggles more with lefties, giving up a 253 average to them on the road as opposed to a 186 average to righties on the road. So here's a wild stat. He has given up a 573 slugging to lefties on the road. When he goes on the road, he is getting crushed by lefties. Only a 257 slugging to righties. 573 and 257 is a humongous difference. 7 of the 10 home runs he has given up this season have been to lefties. Now, let's talk about Shota Imanaga. The rookie lefty is coming back down to earth just a little bit. In March, April, a 0.98 ERA, as you guys know. 2.67 ERA in May, and now a 5.67 ERA in June. He's given up 5 home runs in June. That is as many home runs as he had the whole season before that. Last 2 starts. Let's just give him a slack, though, because they've been against tough matchups. At the Giants, 3 earned runs and 5 hits. That's not terrible, but the Giants are a very good hitting team against lefties. And then the Mets, as we know, they are the #1 team by far to hit lefties. And the Mets, he gave up, I can't even believe it, 11 hits and 10 earned runs. That's right, to the Mets. But again, everybody's doing that, so it makes sense. But and then home road ERA splits don't tell much here. 3.25 at home, 2.88 on the road. Again, Shota is the one at home. Righty lefty splits dead even, almost 243, 240. K rates home and away, 26.3% K rate at home compared to a 21.9% on the road. So being at home might lead to another K or 2. We'll see, but just going by the numbers at least. He has K'd, though, 3 or less in 3 of his last 6 games. So he's missing some less bats that he did at the beginning of the year when he was consistently 6, 7, 8 strikeouts every single game. But his walk rate is a little different, too. His walk rate at home is absolutely elite. He has a 1.7% walk rate at home. That's George Kirby style. That's Zach Eflin style. That's unbelievable. Compared to a 6.5 walk rate on the road, which is still great. But that's, I mean, at home, guys, he's pitched 44.1 innings. He's given up 3 walks at home. It's just been unbelievable. Maybe that walk bet is something you think about, too. He has struggled inducing ground balls. So this is where I think he runs into problems. As the weather warms up, as the winds start blowing out, things like that. That's why I think he's going to struggle a little bit more in the summer as opposed to, the dead ball when it's colder outside, because he is a fly ball pitcher. He's in the 15th percentile at only 36.5% ground ball rate. You don't want to be that. Let me just tell you that. You want the ball on the ground. You don't want it just flying through the air, the summer air. But anyways, those are the pitchers. Now let's talk some offenses real quick. Phillies, they're going to be without their big guns. We all know it. Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, they are toast. on the IL. In the 4 games since they both went out, they've scored 2, 2, 7, and 6. Trey Turner's pretty much carrying this team. I mean, he's been absolutely unbelievable. But the numbers versus lefties in June overall: 16th WRC plus, 9th ISO power. Does it all matter? I don't know, because those two guys are huge and they hit lefties extremely well, even though they are lefties. So it is tough to judge the overall June numbers with their injuries. But this will be their first time seeing Imanaga. Now the Cubs, they've struggled most of the season offensively. Let's face it, they let's just say they haven't been terrible in June. I'll say that they are 16th best WRC plus versus righties, 23rd ISO power though, and slugging. They are lacking power when it comes to facing right-handed pitchers. They have the 4th highest K rate, as you saw earlier, but the one thing they do really well is they draw walks. They have drawn walks at a 9.9% clip, which is the 3rd highest in baseball in June. Overall, the Cubs in the month of June averaging 3.67 runs per game, but, and it's a big but, they have guys with some success versus Zach Wheeler in the past, as you saw. Let me just sum it up what you saw earlier. Bellinger 5 for 15 with 5 dingers. Nico Horner 3 for 8 with a dinger. Ian Happ 3 for 7 with a home run. Combine just those 3, which are 3 of their top 5 hitters in the lineup, they are 11 for 30 with 7 home runs. Does that mean they're going to dominate? No. I just wanted to let you know they have had guys with success. But then you got Dansby Swanson also, who also is at the bottom of the order, but he has really struggled. So now let's talk bullpens. Cubs used Jorge Lopez yesterday and 2 other not so important arms. Phillies used quite a bit: Soto, Ruiz, and Hoffman. But those 3 guys did only throw 14, 8, and 11 pitches. Ruiz gave up 3 runs in the 8th, made it from a 6-1 game to a 6-4 game. That's when they had to use Hoffman, which I don't think they were planning on doing. But again, Hoffman only threw 11 pitches. In June, the Phillies have the #1 bullpen ERA and the lowest SIERA, which if you followed us, we do bullpen days, you know that is a kind of a measuring tool for the bullpen, how lucky or unlucky they've been. Lowest SIERA, lowest bullpen ERA. It's been awesome. Of course, when I bet them, they blow it against a team like the Marlins, but that is what it is. But they've only given up 4 home runs in June, the bullpen. The Cubs, on the other side, the 12th best ERA in June, but they have the 5th worst SIERA, 4.04, which means they've been getting a little unlucky, or getting a little lucky in their bullpen. This is not a top 5, top 10 bullpen, in my opinion. They are due for not negative regression. They do have the highest walk rate in June, the bullpen at 12.9%. You don't want to be walking, guys, that's for sure. So advantage Phillies in the bullpen, obviously. But let's just talk about some props to consider. Trey Turner, scorching hot, 11 for his last 27. 3 hits in 2 straight games, hits both righties and lefties. Well, it doesn't matter. He is carrying the load for them right now. You go, again, these are just for HRRs, bases, hits, whatever you want to do. And then Cody Bellinger, we have to mention. I mean, 5 freaking home runs versus Zach Wheeler. But here's the thing about Bellinger. He's hitting worse versus righties and hitting worse at home. So take that for what it is, but it is a good matchup for him. Now, I'm not always going to have a best bet for the big game breakdown, but I do again. We got 2 in a row. So give me straightforward the Phillies on the money line at -126 on FanDuel for 1 full unit. I like this bet. This is just crazy. We're getting the Phillies on the money line at -126 versus a Cubs team when the Phillies have their ace on the mound. I understand there's no Schwarber, there's no Harper. If they were in, obviously this line would not be -126. But let's just talk about the advantages they have in this game, because we've kind of already talked about the game. The better starting pitcher. Even though he has been worse on the road and been more average on the road, he's facing the Cubs, guys. The Cubs have not looked good offensively. You Cubs fans you guys know what I'm talking about. So they still have the better starting pitcher, I think. I think Imanaga is going to start to struggle, like I said, as the summer comes, because he's just not a ground ball pitcher at all. They have the better offense. Even without those 2 guys, we still got Trey Turner. We got Alec Boehm, who, by the way, is like a top 3 RBI guy in the major leagues, or at least number 1 or 2 in the National League. I mean, he's just been unbelievable. Bryson Stott, other guys have really stepped up. Castellanos has swung the bat pretty decent lately. So they have guys. It's not like they have nobody. And I know there's 3 guys that hit Wheeler pretty well, but for the most part, they have been really inconsistent in that Cubs lineup. And I'm talking from number 1 down to number 9. And then, of course, the bullpen, it's not even close. The Phillies have the advantage there as well. Cubs 22-19 at home, very mediocre. Phillies 23-15 on the road. I do understand they are without their 2 star hitters, though. But Philly has won 7 of the last 10. Cubs have lost 7 of the last 10. These are 2 teams still playing just in different worlds this year. Let's just face it. The Phillies are a team competing for a World Series. Losing 2 players on a baseball team does not mean you become a terrible team anymore. I am getting the better team overall at only -126. So give me the Phillies on the money line as my first best bet. And that is the big game breakdown. And now to the next bet. All right, the second game takes us out to Seattle, where the Mariners host the Baltimore Orioles. Mariners on the money line minus 125, Orioles on the money line plus 105, with a total of 7 runs. I don't have a play on the side here. I got a player prop. Give me Logan Gilbert under 6.5 Ks at minus 130 on DraftKings and ESPN bet right now. Yes. So first of all, Logan Gilbert does have a higher home K rate. I understand that, but I still think 6.5 is too high. He is under this in 7 of the last 10 and 10 of 17 games overall this season. His K rate in June, it's dropped a little bit since where he started the year, but it's 24.2%. Like I said, it's been going down. At April and March, he had a 29.3% K rate. When he faces tough matchups, you don't see him get 7 Ks or 7 or more Ks very often. Last start versus Minnesota, low K rate team, 3 strikeouts versus Houston, who barely strikes out, 5. The Nationals, 4. The Yankees, 1. The last tough kind of K team that he's faced that he's actually done well and gone over this line was all the way back on May 14th against the Royals, and he just barely went over and he had 7 strikeouts. So now he's facing an Orioles offense that has a lot of low K guys versus righties. And as you can see right here by this screenshot on Outlier, which I use a lot, check that link below, by the way. But as you can see, there's just not a lot of high K percentage guys on this team. You got Adley Rutschman, 18.2. Gunnar Henderson, 23.2. It's around average, maybe a little above average for a matchup, but it's still Gunnar Henderson, we know is a good hitter. Ryan Mountcastle, 20.9. Ryan O'Hearn, 10%. There's other guys up there. There's just not a lot of high strikeout where you just look at like 3 guys and say, oh, those are really good spots for him to get Ks. It's going to be tough for him. And then on top of that, you have the Orioles in the month of June. Oh, how about just being the number 1 offense in the entire major leagues? I mean, they're just crushing right-handed pitching. They have the 8th lowest K rate overall versus righties at 19.8% as a team. This team, they could knock Logan Gilbert around a little bit and get him out even earlier than he's used to. Now, I know Logan Gilbert is an innings monster. I get that. But, he's been an innings monster all year, and you still see some of these numbers against tough K teams. He does struggle. So, also, recent righties versus the Orioles. Kirby last night with 5 Ks. Lorenzen, 3. Scherzer, 4. Ronel Blanco had 4. Luis Hill, 1. Garrett Cole, 5. I mean, some of these guys are good strikeout pitchers. 12 of the last 14 right-handed pitchers have gone under this line against the Orioles. The only 2 to go over was Tanner Bybee with 7, just barely over, and Reynaldo Lopez with 8. Bybee has almost a 30% K rate, though, and Lopez has a little bit higher than Logan Gilbert. So 6 or 7 to me seems like a ceiling if everything goes well. And again, he could have a great night, go 7 innings, strike out 6, and we still win this. He has to K 7 to lose. So I like this number. I think the odds are going to go up even more on this. I think there's a chance it goes to 5.5. That's just my guess and prediction. But give me Logan Gilbert under 6.5 Ks as my second best bet. And now I got some hitter parlay ideas for you. So here we go. These went, by the way, 6-2 yesterday, I believe. Unless Vinny P got a hit in the last at bat, I'm not sure. But Yordan Alvarez, 7 for 22 with 2 bombs off Kikuchi, pretty decent. He just crushes lefties in general, hitting 346 off him. He also hits much better on the road, hitting 346 on the road. He is a good option for a home run, for bases, and for a hit. Carlos Correa, 471 last 7 days, facing Montero. Small sample size. We talked about this pitcher who hasn't thrown much, but he's still giving up 10 hits in 8.2 innings. Carlos Correa is crushing it at home, hitting 342 this season in Minnesota. He's hitting 309 versus righties. I like Correa today. And then we got Trey Turner. We already talked about him in the big game breakdown. Absolutely scorching hot with 3 hits in 2 straight games. He's a good 2+ hit guy, maybe over 1.5 bases, maybe over HRRs. All those kind of options are there for Trey Turner because he's just been lights out. The fourth one, the lefty, Christian Yelich of the Brewers. 5 for 12 off Dakota Hudson, like you saw earlier, hitting 381 in the last 7 days and hitting 327 off righties. The fifth one, let's just ride the hot bat here. Andrew Vaughn of the White Sox hit another bomb yesterday, hitting 368 in the last 7 days, 337 in June. This is a once heralded top prospect, and he's starting to catch fire. So we're just going to ride the hot hand here. Sixth one, it's actually teammates. So technically it's 7. JD Martinez and Francisco Lindor. JD, he was scratched yesterday with ankle soreness. So obviously check that. He may or may not play. I think it was just a precaution rest day. I think he'll be back, but you never know. So, but if he does play, he's hitting 310 off lefties. He's hitting 360 versus lefties on the road facing Mitchell Parker. And then Francisco Lindor also hitting better versus lefties, hitting at 294. Lindor's been on a roll. 2+ hits in 5 of his last 7 games, hitting 310 in the last 7 days, hitting 290 in June. And these 2 guys are both facing Mitchell Parker, who's been about average. He's not a terrible pitcher or anything like that, but he's going to give up some hits. He's not a guy that just misses a ton of bats. He's given up 8 hits per 9 innings. I think they can both crush him, or not crush him. I think they can both get a hit off of him. But this Mets offense is going to be a challenge for Mitchell Parker because they've been just unbelievable versus lefties lately. So, anyways, that's all the research help I got. That's the 2 best bets, including the big game breakdown and the hitter parlay ideas. And now let's check out the recap. All right, there it is. So far, just the 2 bets. We got the Phillies on the money line at -126 and Logan Gilbert under 6.5 Ks at -130 on DK and ESPN Bet. Again, any added plays will be in the pinned comments below on X and on Discord. I will be adding more. We just have to win. It's just a have to now at this point. I'm still grinding for you guys. We're gonna get some winners. We are due for some good variants. I mean, that's an understatement. So hopefully that starts today. But either way, thank you guys for watching, for listening, for commenting, liking, everything you guys are doing to support me, to support Ryan, and to support this channel. We really appreciate it. So anyways, hope everyone has a great Wednesday, and we'll talk to you soon.